The headlines: a constitutional showdown in the UK as British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he'll block the gender recognition bill passed by the Scottish Parliament. No survivors, but many questions after Sunday's fatal plane crash in Nepal. The pilot allegedly didn't report any problems on the approach. Jeremy Clarkson sends the Duke and Duchess of Sussex a written apology over comments he made about Meghan in a newspaper column.
Back into my life like a wolf in snakes flopping. Crawled back into my bedroom.
The Italian movie icon Gina Lollobrigida has died at the age of 95. The Australian Open is underway in Melbourne. Andy Murray will be on court in a couple of hours, and Novak Djokovic starts his bid for the championship later on Tuesday. And we speak to the woman who's run 150 consecutive marathons and just completed an epic run across Australia. The fact that a Russian paramilitary has crossed the border into Norway illegally after fleeing the Wagner independent militia group. A lawyer for Andrei Medvedev, a former commander, said he fled after witnessing war crimes in Ukraine. His escape is believed to be the first known instance of one of the group's soldiers defecting to the West. The Attorney General's office in Brazil has filed an indictment against 39 people for their alleged involvement in coup activities related to the storming of the Senate building. The indictment says they were among a core group of conspirators who tried to abolish the democratic order. The former President Jair Bolsonaro denies instigating the violence. The Italian Prime Minister says the capture of the country's most wanted mafia boss is a major blow to organised crime. Matteo Messina Denaro, who'd been on the run for 30 years, was arrested in Sicily. The news sparked celebrations on the streets of the Sicilian capital, Palermo. Thousands of Iranians living in Europe have demonstrated outside the EU Parliament demanding that the body list Tehran's Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist group. They accused the Guards of playing a key role in suppressing anti-government protests that have occurred across Iran since the death in custody of Mahsa Amini in September.
Let's bring you some breaking news from Florida now, where at least 8 people have been shot at a Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration in Fort Pierce, which is on Florida's east coast, about 200 kilometres, that's 120 odd miles north of Miami. That's according to the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. It said one person was in a critical condition. 4 other people were injured in the chaos following the gunfire, according to the Sheriff's Office. People had gathered at Eloise Ellis Park for a MLK car show and family fun day. We will bring you much more on that story as it comes into our newsroom. Well, it has, of course, been a national holiday across the United States to celebrate the life and legacy of the civil rights campaigner Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King, who would have been 94 on Sunday, was assassinated in 1968, 5 years after his famous I Have a Dream speech that challenged Americans to judge each other not by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. In the last few moments, official figures coming out of China show the country's population has fallen for the first time in over 60 years. Official data says the country's population at the end of December was 1.41175 billion people. That's down by 85 million people from the previous year. The birth rate was the lowest in record in the last 12 months, with just 6.77 births per 1,000 people. That was lower than the death rate, which was 7.37 deaths per 1,000 people. The death rate was the highest since 1976 and was higher in 2022 than it was in 2021. No reason has been given by officials for that climbing death rate.